If you're not subscribed, that's a great way to get started. But anyway, let's go ahead and get started with the math. First question is just simplifying a rational expression here. And one of the things, so a couple of things we need to recognize with the negative exponents, and at least that like kind of rule with negative exponents. You know, if I had, actually, let me get to change this up here. All right, so again, let's just kind of do a quick little review of rules of exponents. If I had negative n or n to the negative 1, that's going to be represented as n to the first power, okay? So that's basically being that reciprocal property. Now, if I have a over b to the negative 1, then that's going to equal b over a. And again, there's a lot of ways I could, show why these work and how they're true, but for the sake of time, I'm just going to kind of go through these rules here, just to kind of remind you of what negative exponents do when we have the negative exponents of just a single number, or if we have it of a fraction. The other rule really that we just need to take care of is, if I have x to the n over x to the m, so therefore an exponent divided by another, or the quotient of an exponent with the same bases, then we're just going to go ahead and subtract the powers, x to the m minus n. So there's a couple different ways to approach this problem. We could go ahead and simplify inside of the parentheses first, and then go ahead and apply the -2, which I'm just going to decide to do. And so I'll just kind of work through it like a slow way. And obviously, the more problems you do with this, you might be able to get some more shortcuts that will make it a little bit easier for the way you understand it. Now, 3 over 4, I cannot simplify that any further than what it is. So I'm just going to leave that as is. But in this case, I'm going to go ahead and write these as using my quotient rule. So I'll have 3/4, and then I'm going to have x to the 2 minus 3, and then y to the -1 minus 3. And that's raised to the -2nd. Now let's go ahead and simplify this. So this becomes x to the -1st, and this becomes -1 minus 3 is y to the -4th. There we go. Okay, so now we can go back and use this rule that when we have a exponent raised to the negative power, we can just put it in the denominator. And again, just a little FYI, this rule works also with this. If you have a fractional exponent here where 1 is in the numerator, you can just write that as n to the 1. But that's not the case that we have here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and rewrite these. And again, still using my negative exponents. Come on, it's been a while. So I have 3/4. So then that's going to be 3 is only in the numerator. So I'm going to have x to the 1st and then y to the 4th. Okay, and that's going to be to the -2nd. Now, so the thing about that negative exponent though, is what that tells me is that to make it positive, I'm sorry, I should probably write that up there. So when you go ahead and make that exponent positive, then all you're going to do is reciprocate that fraction. So therefore you can say that's going to be a positive exponent of the same value. So I can now rewrite this as 3 for x y to the 4th. Oops, I'm sorry. All wrong. Let's go ahead and reciprocate this to the positive power. So therefore it'd be 4 x y to the 4th. My computer's going very, very slow. Over 3 squared. Okay. And then actually one other rule of exponents that I did not cover was like the power or the power to product or the power to quotient rule. Let's just kind of cover that the power to product, if I had a to the n, then that equals a to the n times b to the n. That's the power to product rule. And the a over b to the n equals a to the n over a to the b, or b to the n. So again, what this is showing us is that whenever you have, as long as your exponents are being are separated by multiplication or division, we can go ahead and distribute that power. So therefore, my final answer is going to be a 16x squared. And again, remember, when you take a exponent, raise it to another power, you're actually multiplying those. So therefore, you're going to be, that's going to be x squared. This is going to be y to the 8th. And then over 9. And therefore, that cannot be